It was all go at Microsoft's Build conference with a new version of Windows Phone 8.1 formally announced. Something of a major upgrade with hundreds of under-the-hood improvements and a number of headline obvious ones, including Cortana seemingly bringing the character of Apple Siri and the knowledge of Google Now together in one super-duper personal assistant. It looks quite impressive so far, even if it is all powered by everyone's least favourite search system, Bing. Also new is a swipe clone for the keyboard and a drop-down pane for aggregating notifications and providing quick toggles for connectivity. Now, I'm sure I've seen this all in an operating system before. Let me think. Announced running Windows Phone 8.1 at the conference was the Nokia Lumia 930, the flagship for the normal smartphone market, with 5-inch AMOLED display and the internals and 20-megapixel PureView camera of the 1520. With metal frame as well, the 930 could be the one for finally doing something about platform sales in the higher market tiers. Hey, there's a new Oppo coming up. The Find 7 is the first smartphone to pack a 5.5-inch QHD, that's the uppercase Q, 4K display and a crazily stupid 540 ppi. Under the hood is an equally silly 2.5 GHz quad-core Snapdragon 801, hey, I'm just jealous, and 3 GB of RAM. Interestingly, there's a special mode in the 13-megapixel camera to take 50-megapixel photos through a bit of a non-OIS jiggling and oversampling. That's just a gimmick, trust me. I'd have been more impressed by oversampling producing lower resolution, purer images, Nokia style. There's lots more in the Find 7. I'm definitely going to get this one in for review in due course. The rather oddly named HTC One brackets M8 is obviously the successor to the excellent HTC One from 2013, and though also rather oddly, it's not really that much of an improvement. Don't take this too negatively, but if you have the original, then there's a case to be made that you don't gain that much in going to the new model. Yes, the internals are faster and the screen slightly bigger, but the phone ends up almost a centimetre longer. It's 17 grams heavier, the camera's lost its OIS, and the price has gone up. On the pro side, the elements that made you love the original are just here, and the whole package is sleeker, making the M8, which I'll call it this for short, a fairly easy recommend if you're after a premium, metal-bodied, crisp-screened, lightning-fast Android phone and you don't already own the HTC One from 2013. Certainly the M8 is a pleasant change after numerous plastic alternatives from the likes of Samsung and Huawei. As before, the issue of radio waves and metal has been solved with the embedding of aerials in the plastic channels top and bottom on the rear and sides, plus the top plastic face, and I had no issues at all with signal strength. The metal curves rather impressively round the sides before stopping at a rather jarring sharp edge when the display Gorilla Glass 3 starts. The front of the HTC One design is dominated by the twin stereo speakers, and rightly so. Whether it's listening to podcasts or sat-nav instructions or YouTube videos or simply trying a speakerphone call, having reliable, high-quality audio available on your phone is just stunning. Here's a demo. In fact, it's almost worth buying the One design just for this unique selling feature if audio is important to you. HTC claims the M8 speakers are even louder than the originals, but I'm not so sure. Still very high quality though. I did get complaints from the whole family when trialling the M8. Turn your music down, and so on. Justifying a centimetre of space at top and bottom of the One's front face. But of course that means that every other millimetre is precious, and the absolute last thing you'd want to see is another centimetre of black plastic with nothing on it except the HTC logo. I tried to justify it while using the M8, thinking, well, one-handed, it forces the thumb higher up and makes the UI more natural. No, I'm clutching at straws here. If this strip wasn't here, or was used as on the original for control buttons, and the whole device would be smaller and more pocketable, and everyone would be happier. Bah. Around the back is another slight shot, 2 camera lenses, but don't get too excited. There's no 3D, and the top tiny sensor here is just for achieving some of the rather gimmicky camera special effects, such as detecting which bits of your photo are, quote, background, and then replacing them with an RT line sketch or similar. HTC also makes a big thing of the, quote, U-focus effect, wherein you can, quote, focus later, by which they mean artificially blur any depth in your image according to where you tap. There's precisely 0 refocusing going on. There's precisely 0 extra resolution or detail enabled, and so on. It's just a gimmicky effect. The 4-megapixel camera itself is similar to that on the original HTC One, apart from not having OIS. This in itself isn't a huge loss because HTC's limited 2-axis OIS never worked that well in the first place. At least there's an anti-shake mode here built in, though it's a mode you have to explicitly select each time, which isn't much use. Surely this should be on all the time, at least in low light. Photo quality is okay, though no more than that by modern standards, and the lack of raw resolution will annoy those who like to crop later and pick out extracts from images. The Zoe mode I like so much from the original one, whereby a burst of photos is taken starting from before the shutter icon is pressed, is still here, though now relegated as here to a shooting mode. Though at least the camera app remembers this setting for next time. Worth trying out for kids and events and other moments you'd otherwise miss. And this is test 1080p video footage on the HTC One M8. Excellent audio, excellent video. No OIS this time, but that's about the only downside. Otherwise, pretty impressive. Rounding off the hardware side of things, it's a blazingly fast Snapdragon 801 at 2.3 gigahertz. You know, these speeds are getting silly, though they do underline that these things aren't really phones anymore. They're miniaturized multimedia computers. Something Nokia was shouting about 7 years ago, but the tech wasn't really ready for the mainstream then. Add in large screens as here and these processors, and you can do pretty much anything that your laptop can for most people. Capacity shouldn't be a problem for most people either. Once updates are done after booting and settling in, you're already down to only 8 gig free of the spec 16, but fear not, for HTC has finally put in a micro SD facility here on the right for media, music, captured images and videos, and so on. Plus some games can use this for resources, but your mileage will of course vary here. Also sliding out from the metal sides, this time on the left, is a double width SIM tray for 2 nano SIMs side by side in some markets, though only one holder was supplied for this European M8. A nano SIM, shmano SIM. These days my main number is on a nano and I have a very snug adapter that turns it into a micro SIM. I don't see why people get too excited and too worried about this particular trend. Battery life was excellent. The Snapdragon 801 is really efficient, and especially with LTE, and with a 2600 mAh battery, it lasted me all day without any problem whatsoever. So well done, HTC there. All of the above then, and no mention of the software. This is HTC's Sense 6 skin on top of Android 4.4.2, so right up to date. Sense 6 is an evolution of Sense 5. Well, duh. And the most obvious changes are that there's now double tap to turn on, Nokia and latterly LG style. Blink feed has been expanded into an all-purpose news and social browser, now adding in Google Plus to the mix, though the home virtual button assignment is the normal Android layout, thankfully. Rather cleverly, a choice of gestures on the lock screen means that you can choose at the time whether to go straight to Blink feed or Android shortcuts and widgets. Other notable bits here include HTC helpfully grouping application shortcuts into groups where appropriate. At least this gives new owners a sense for how they might want to organise things themselves. There's a reorganise command on the menu at the top of the app list, and that's the key to changing things around. Also bundled are HTC TV, the next generation of its infrared control software, now with added internet supply detail, but that's a feature to look into in another show. The usual duplicate app stores are almost gone. Hooray! With just 7 digital vying with Play Music for music purchases. The Fitbit client is also preloaded, as is the full Polaris Office editing suite for documents. There's also this DOTS perforated case which triggers off a primary coloured time, weather and telephony interface on the M8 that shows through the dots for usability and protection. Well, kind of. It either works by magic or a combination of magnets and super sensitive touch, but I'm not going to give it any space here because putting a plastic and rubber case on the M8 completely foils the point of a unibody metal phone in the first place. The M8 is eminently desirable, and not just for metal fetishists like me. My main bugbears were the wasted frontal real estate and the disappointing camera, but if you can get past these two niggles, I think you'll be pretty happy after signing up for HTC's new one. I'm fascinated by keeping my interactions with technology as flexible as possible, and that's partly why, even though I see the attractions of large touchscreens, hey, I use a Galaxy Note a lot of the time, I do appreciate the option of a QWERTY keyboard sometimes too. Now, one option is to use a device with built-in QWERTY like the BlackBerry Q10 here or the HTC 7 Pro here, but there are on the whole too many compromises. The device design itself, and in terms of key size and feel, it's usually quicker to type on screen, which is why I've returned for a feature here to a technology that's been around for a decade. As part of my series of looks at some of my favourite ProPorter products, this is the Freedom Bluetooth keyboard, the backlit version, and in use it turns my large-screened Android smartphone into a miniature laptop. If there's a longish email to reply to, or if I'm taking notes at an event, or perhaps blocking out a script, sometimes the combination of an almost full-size keyboard, as here, and using the whole of the smartphone screen for context as you write is just about perfect. The idea is to keep the keyboard in your briefcase or car glove box or whatever, ready for those moments. The Freedom backlit is rather well made, with aluminium frame and rubber bumps to stop scratches on any desks. Unlike Bluetooth keyboards from a decade ago, this is ultra thin and has an internal rechargeable battery that provides many hours of working life for charge. It's the first time I've seen a Bluetooth keyboard with LED key backlighting, and it's pretty darn cool. The impact on the battery seems to be amazingly minimal, and the only negative thing I can say about the backlight is that there are reflections off the side of each keycap, which makes the light feel a little busy. The keys themselves are first class, individually sprung just as on a laptop. Surprisingly, even the media and volume keys work for controlling music on the smartphone, plus editing combinations like Control-C and Control-V, plus the cursor keys, of course, again laptop style. Inoperative keys included the Euro top left and screen brightness, but certainly nothing close to being a showstopper. It comes with a squishy carrying case and a folding stand, should you need them. I've been really impressed by this, the Freedom Bluetooth keyboard with backlight, and I think you might too.